do you think there is more to Canadian identity than just being polite, maple syrup, hockey, and most especially, we're not Americans?
Fellow Toastmasters and most welcome guests. The question I've been asked is about the Canadian identity and what do I think is essentially the Canadian identity? Well, I think Canada is one of the places in the world where our government is fairly progressive and at least the political leaders tend to try to do the right thing. And I find that is enjoyable. And I think there's many places in the world that we hear about in the news where the news talks very unfavorably about the politicians. And I don't really know the true situation, but we hear a lot of news about other places where they're criticizing the leaders and saying they're doing a bad job. But in Canada, the media seems to be quite positive towards our leaders, at least the CBC, which is a publicly funded news media. They generally seem to talk about the politicians in a way that puts them in a good light. And I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing, but it makes Canada a more positive place to live because we're not always hearing about the horrible things happening in another country. It's more like, oh yes, our Bonnie Henry is now leading us to have the lowest COVID in BC, and we should really celebrate her. There's even a song written by a local jazz musician called The Ballad of Bonnie Henry, which you can listen to on YouTube, where it's a friend of mine, a composer, who wrote a song, and they had his friend sang and played the mandolin. So it's a celebration of these public officials who we think are doing a great job in leading us through the difficult times. So that's one thing I think is very different about Canada, is that we do seem to respect the leaders that we have in place, at least some of us do, and that is a positive thing, I think. But it could easily change. Like, I think there's a lot of undercurrent of issues going on that maybe we don't hear about. But in general, things seem to be a lot nicer in Canada and a lot more friendly, a lot more polite. And on the surface, we're quite a good country to be in, I think. So that's my thoughts.
Thank you, Geoff. Certainly, I would note that as a public company, the CBC probably doesn't want to bite the hand that feeds it, so I can't imagine it saying too much bad about the politicians. However, that's just my thoughts.